Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, because today we are going to unpack the core terminology of modern artificial intelligence. Look, if you've been scrolling through tech news lately, you're probably completely drowning in an alphabet soup of acronyms, intense jargon, and alarming security warnings. It can feel really overwhelming, right? But today, we're going to wipe away all that confusion. We're building a crystal clear, structured roadmap of exactly what these terms mean, how they connect, and critically, where their security vulnerabilities actually lie. You know, if terms like machine learning or LLMs make your eyes glaze over, you are definitely not alone. But our source material today gives us an absolutely brilliant mental model for this. Instead of treating these terms like a bunch of separate, unconnected buzzwords floating in space, we need to visualize these technologies as a set of nested Russian dolls, basically a series of concentric circles. Every new term you hear is simply a more specialized doll living perfectly inside a larger one. It all fits together.
All right, let's quickly glance at our agenda for this explainer. We've got 6 layers: data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, and large language models. Okay, starting with layer 1, data science, the big umbrella.
So we're starting with the outermost doll, the biggest, broadest foundation of them all. Before we can even begin to talk about flashy robots or chatting with a computer, we simply have the science of using data to find answers. Data science is defined as the overall process of extracting meaningful insights and, as our source wonderfully puts it, hidden mysteries from data to solve problems. Think of this as the absolute bedrock. Without data to study in the first place, you literally cannot build any of the intelligent systems that sit inside this layer. It all starts here.
Moving to layer 2, artificial intelligence, the vision. Artificial intelligence is the broad goal of making machines mimic human behavior and intelligence. If a machine makes a decision or recognizes a pattern, we tend to call that artificial intelligence. But honestly, we're going to put a pin in this for a second. Here's the secret to our nested dolls. AI isn't the underlying code itself. It's just the overarching aspiration. To really grasp this vision, we actually need to look at the engines that power it first. So we're going to skip ahead to the inner layers, machine learning and deep learning. And I promise we will circle back to this vision once we see how the engine is built. Let's dig a bit deeper. Layer 3, machine learning, the student. This slide is huge because it illustrates a massive paradigm shift in how we actually teach computers. In the old days of computing, a human programmer had to manually write thousands of strict if-then rules. Imagine trying to teach your computer to recognize a picture of an apple. The old way literally meant handing the computer a 100-page manual on apple geometry, the exact mathematical curve of the stem, the specific hexadecimal codes for the color red. It was incredibly rigid and exhausting. But in the machine learning way, we don't give it a manual at all. We just show the machine 50 pictures of apples. The data acts as the teacher, and the machine acts as the student, figuring out those hidden patterns totally on its own. Next up, layer 4, deep learning, the digital brain. So we open up that machine learning doll and zoom into an even more advanced subset, deep learning. While basic ML handles relatively simple tasks, this layer builds a literal digital brain. Deep learning is directly inspired by the human brain, utilizing multiple layers of what we call artificial neural networks to process massive, incredibly complex data. It's the technology that lets a system instantly recognize a specific face in a crowded stadium or seamlessly translate languages on the fly. And hey, remember that broader artificial intelligence vision we skipped just a minute ago? Well, here we are. It is right here, powered by this complex digital brain, that the grand AI vision of machines mimicking human behavior finally starts to become a reality. Let's open the next doll. Layer 5, generative AI, the creator. This is where we hit an absolute turning point in tech. Older AI models were mostly analytical, right? They sorted or predicted existing data, kind of like your basic email filter predicting whether a message is spam or not spam. But generative AI, it creates entirely new, original content from scratch. Instead of just recognizing a picture of a cat, it has the creative power to paint a brand new, completely original picture of a cat wearing a tuxedo, based purely on your instructions. But, and this is a very big but, this new creative power introduces severe enterprise security implications. Because it's generating novel outputs based on external instructions, it is highly susceptible to manipulation. It opens up doors to vulnerabilities that the older, simpler AI models just never had to face. Finally, we reach the innermost doll. Layer 6, large language models, the voice.
Large language models, or LLMs, are a highly specific type of generative AI designed explicitly to understand and generate human language. Systems like ChatGPT or Gemini have essentially read billions of pages of text to calculate the mathematical probability of what the next word in a sentence should be. That's what allows them to have that natural, free-flowing conversation with you. But remember those security risks I just mentioned? Well, LLMs are the absolute prime target for something called prompt injection. This is a nasty vulnerability where a malicious user feeds the AI cleverly crafted text, a poison prompt, to trick the model into ignoring its own safety guardrails. If a prompt injection is successful, a hacker can potentially force the LLM to leak highly sensitive corporate data or even write malicious code on their behalf. It is a massive concern in enterprise security right now.
Okay, let's take a breath and lock all of this in. Here is a perfect mental cheat sheet summarizing our entire nested hierarchy using simple I use or I want statements. It starts super wide. With data science, I use data to find answers. Inside that is AI. I want a machine to act like a human. Inside that is machine learning. I let the machine learn from data instead of giving it rigid rules. Deeper still is deep learning. I use a digital brain to handle very complex data. Then generative AI, I use that brain to create totally new things. And finally, sitting right in the middle, LLMs. I specialize that creation into human-like conversation.
Before we officially wrap up this explainer, let's shift gears from passive listening to active recall with a super quick assessment derived directly from our source material. Let's just make sure these concepts truly stuck. So, according to the source, what is the role of data science? Based on those nested dolls we just unpacked together, if you chose B, the broad, foundational field of extracting meaningful insights from data, you absolutely nailed it. It really is amazing to think that before we can build digital brains or chat with LLMs, we have to start with the fundamental science of data. As we rely more and more on these inner Russian dolls to write our code, draft our emails, and run our businesses, the ultimate question remains. As these models get deeper and more complex, who is actually in control here? Is it us or the bad actors designing the next malicious prompt injection? Keep that mental model handy, stay secure out there, and thanks for exploring with us today.